Hello, my name is Aaron, and I just wanted to do a brief talk about the 12 days of Christmas. Today is Christmas, it is the 25th of December, and that can mean, different things to different people. A lot of people, Christmas is just a holiday where you give gifts, it's about Santa Claus. I think everyone knows there's a religious attachment to Christianity, but a lot of people don't always do things with that. I do. That is something I care a lot about. This is one of my favorite times of the year. Honestly, it's one of most people's favorite times of the year, so I'm not saying anything crazy there. But the uh, the thought that kind of permeates through Christmas is just this idea of togetherness, which can be tough. Sometimes it can be very lonely, being, uh, single, not being in a relationship, not being married, and being, you know, out of your family, where you're living on your own and you're doing your own thing. It can be kind of lonely, but what I think that has done has made me think a lot about what I would want to do for Christmas, for my own traditions, for celebrations. And one thing that I've really been drawn to is the idea of celebrating the 12 days of Christmas. Now, that is an odd thing, and for the most part, I've seen when people think about it, they think about it with the 12th day being Christmas, but that's not what the tradition is. And I know this is a tradition that isn't practiced strongly anywhere, but the tradition actually has Christmas or the day after Christmas being the start of the 12 days of Christmas. Now, I've seen the day after. I don't understand why you would celebrate it the day after Christmas, but that is the way that I have heard it. So, starting the day of Christmas, that just being that first day, and then you run your days through the rest of the until you hit the 12. So, with that said, the 26th is the second, and then you go 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st. So the 31st and the 1st, which are the only days in that grouping that really stand out, that would be the 7th and 8th days of Christmas. And then you go 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So 5th is the 12th day of Christmas, which is often referred to as 12th night. Uh, Traditionally, that's a day where people will take down their Christmas trees, or it's also referred to as Epiphany Eve. For the day after the 12th day of Christmas is referred to as Epiphany. I'm not going to get too much into Epiphany right now because I can do talk about that on Epiphany. But the idea is that Epiphany is attached to the introduction of the wise men when we sing "We Three Kings" or "Little Drummer Boy" or whatever. Those songs are attached to Epiphany, and that's also, I think, one of the reasons why the 12th day is 12 drummers drumming. They got that kind of tie in there. But the idea behind the 12 days of Christmas itself, like, this was a holiday, this was something that happened, but it was a tradition, although I don't think it was ever a tradition that everyone adhered to over time. But the song itself was, I believe it came from England, and it means a few different things, to different people. But the uh, the idea was that each of the days of Christmas, each of the things that represented, tied to something, and that tie was meant to basically teach children. Each day there would be a lesson about what the day of Christmas was. When you sing the song, the 12 Days of Christmas song, and the information that you learn that day, it's a way of just remembering it so you understand, to kind of build on the Christian faith, and to understand the idea of my true love in the song is understood to be God. That God is our true love, that He is the one who is giving us these things. So each of these things that we get each day are gifts from God, and they're representations of something. They are not just a broad thing. So, and that's I want to get into. I'm going to get into day one here in just a moment. it won't be very long. This will be actually a very short video, but day one will talk about what that means, the partridge in a pear tree. But the idea that I have with the 12 days of Christmas is that each day you give a gift. And you don't have to have 12 gifts. You can do different things, but it's each of these days you do something. You either give your children a gift, or you give somebody else a gift, or you do something. It doesn't have to be a physical, tangible thing. It could be simple as, today we're going to read our favorite Bible verses to each other. We're going to exchange that and have that sort of conversation. It could be that simple, and that would be great, I think. Wonderful. But it also gives some structure to the idea of gifts, because it's kind of like what do we give people for Christmas? What gifts do we do? It's like a never-ending thing. You never know if you're giving enough. You set some sort of straight bar, how much money you want to spend, how many gifts. This gives you a framework, which I would say for children is pretty typical. I don't want to downplay people who are in poorer families or richer families. My expectation is that most kids get about that many gifts. Sometimes they're very small, and that's fine. But it also, I think, helps us as gift givers to think more consciously about what we're giving people, instead of just getting fully into the commercialism of the holiday and just grabbing whatever looks good to get some sort of amount or idea in our head. So what I would like to do then is just kind of go on to what day one references. So do a fancy screen transition there. Congratulations, it's my first screen transition ever. Sorry. So as the song goes, on the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree. The idea of this verse references Jesus, and this being what happened on Christmas Day. Now, it's common knowledge that Jesus' birth was just not in December, that it probably happened a different time of the year. This holiday was, in a way, usurped by the Christian church to make it more about, to replace a pagan holiday with a Christian holiday, which, some people, they bring that up, and that's irrelevant. No one really cares about that at this point. But what we see in this first day, the idea of the partridge in a pear tree, of Jesus being born, this is the first gift that God gave us. Even though there are so many other gifts that we've given, there's so many different things that we have received from God, this is the first and foremost. Everything ties in through Jesus. Every lyric of this song, we will repeat a partridge in a pear tree. No matter, just everything that we have from God ties in through Jesus. He is the connector. He is what brings all good things together. So if we do not have that, then we do not have anything. If not for Jesus, we are all doomed to death, doomed to hell, doomed to eternal separation from God. That is why he is the first day. That is why it is so important. The concept of the partridge in a pear tree is that I don't know if there is a specific thought about what pears mean. I haven't looked at it that much, and maybe I should have before I started this. But the thought is the partridge is a fairly I wouldn't say vicious bird, but it is very defensive of its chicks. Some birds don't put up much of a fight. Partridges are different, from what I understand. So having the idea is the partridge is in the pear tree, the baby birds are in the tree, and when predators come near, that partridge will risk its life to save those chicks. And that's what Jesus did. Although it was not in a way where Jesus was fighting physically, although he did right before the sequence that, or actually part of the sequence that led to his crucifixion, was overturning the tables and whipping the people involved. I don't recall if the Bible line says that he actually whipped them, or if he just whipped at the tables to get the people out, the people who were exchanging money and basically ripping off the people who are trying to donate, to sacrifice. So that idea of the partridge, Jesus protecting us even at his own life, and then to be in a pear tree, to think about how Jesus died, where he died on the cross, on the wood, on a tree, that adds some symbolism there as well. So that is what I think about when I think about this first day. And I think that the idea of gift giving for this day, this first day, should be the least commercial that you can think of, the most from the heart gift that you can give. To maybe even be an exchange of letters, to say, this is what I think, this is what you mean to me, to have that fellowship and to know that you're loved, to feel that love with your family members. Now, this is probably not that practical when I say it this way, because this would involve that you only on Christmas Day exchange gifts with people who also believe in this thing, because in this sort of idea of giving 12 gifts. Because if you decided to do that to somebody who didn't think that way, that might be awkward. Now, I am someone who has in the past wrote letters to people on Christmas to give to them, just to show appreciation, to remind them of what they mean to me, and to maybe let them know if they didn't, because sometimes we forget about that. So maybe it's a good idea in accompaniment of something. Now, I'm not saying that we have to give gifts for Christmas, but it's expected in some sense, so we want to. But it's also just a great thing to do. It shows that we're celebrating the birth of Jesus. And that's what we want to do all 12 days, and even into Epiphany, which is it's the same celebration, but it's slightly different. So the idea then is, on this first day, we are just remembering, we're celebrating Jesus' birth. This is the foundation upon what everything else is built on. There is nothing else without Jesus. There is only, and I do not mean to say this to the detriment of anyone, but that is where Christianity has emerged. Without that, we have just Judaism, which for some people is fine, but that's not what I want, and that's not what has saved me. So, praise God, and thank you for listening. Tomorrow, I plan to go on to day 2. I might have something else to say about day 1 still, but what the 2 turtle doves mean. So, if it was interesting, thank you. Merry Christmas, and God bless.